Hey there, everybody! Yeah, it's your good pal Dustin, back with another episode of Turn It Around. I'm sorry for no video yesterday. I just felt so drained. I had zero energy, and when I say zero, I mean zero energy. Excuse me. So I want to try to have as much energy as I can produce for you guys. So I was like, I have no energy today. So I'm not going to make you suffer through me with zero energy because let's face it, I am not that exciting. Anyway, I would be even worse with no energy. So, anyway, sorry again, but here is what I was going to do yesterday. But yeah, real life and drainage. Yeah. So, excuse me. As always, I hope everybody had a wonderful and blessed Sunday yesterday. I hope you got to spend time with God in whatever way that looks like for you, whether that's going to church, reading your Bible, prayer, singing along to Christian music, or taking in YouTube and or TikTok Christian content, whatever way you spend time with God on Sunday or any day. I hope you got to do it. I hope you get to do it throughout the rest of this week, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed week ahead. We are on episode 208, continuing our little study on rescuing, God rescuing his people, God rescuing people. So, and today we are talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel 3. So this is going to be a little different. I just put the verses in the slides and then I'm going to talk about each section a little bit. So, yeah. So, Daniel 3. It's going to be verses 1 through 6. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, nations and peoples of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. So much like with Daniel, last week we got a king making an idol and wanting people to worship, pray to it, whatever. Difference here is whereas Darius last week was tricked into making his decree, Nebuchadnezzar, on the other hand, this golden statue was of one of his gods, one of his deities. So I don't think it was him, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong, but either way, he had set up an idol, whether it was a statue of him or a statue of one of his gods. It's not really important. It was an idol either way. And he commanded everybody, when they heard all this music, that they have to bow down and worship the image of gold. So it kind of starts out very similar to Daniel with Darius, like I said, except that Nebuchadnezzar wasn't tricked into it like Darius was. Nebuchadnezzar did it on his own volition. So there is a little bit of a difference, but you know, Kings throughout history have done things like this. They have set up an idol, or they have set themselves up as an idol to be worshiped, prayed to, etc. And all those leaders who have done that have ultimately met their end, and their empires crumbled. Doesn't happen overnight. It sometimes took centuries, years, decades, but they always fall because they are not worshiping the one true God, the God of Abraham, the God of Adam and Eve, and the Father of Jesus Christ. And so they do not have God's protection. We have God's protection, and we will see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego also had God's protection. And much like Daniel last week, it's those dang officials again that get them in trouble. So Daniel 3, 8 through 12. At this time, some astrologers, I think King Nebuchadnezzar was I think his culture was big on like the stars and astrology and, looking for answers in the stars or whatever. So I don't know if this is a literal translation or one of those times where a meaning is lost in translation, but I'm going to just use astrologers. I'm assuming they are actually more of officials. They are important people. Anyway, they came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. Your majesty has issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold. And that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up." So just like with Daniel last time, officials basically being snitches and turning Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in because it seems like they, like Daniel, were, kind of high up as Jews, and the officials did not like that. And they wanted to get rid of them, so maybe that one of them could be put in the position that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in now. Don't know for sure if that's the case, but usually when people do stuff like this, it's for some reason like that. Those dang officials, they cause problems a lot. Even with Jesus Christ, the Sanhedrin were basically officials, Jewish officials, and they were the ones who plotted Jesus's arrest and crucifixion. Officials cause a lot of problems in the Bible for God's people, and it's either out of jealousy or ambition or whatever, or both. But it's just something you notice when you're reading through the Bible, that officials that are the cause of a lot of the troubles that happen to the people in the Bible. And yeah, we don't like these officials. They no good. They jealous, ambitious, just they cover all the 7 deadly sins. They don't want to work hard to get to where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are. They envy Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I can bet they give in to lust. I can I'll probably almost guarantee you they doing things they shouldn't be doing in a lust context. They get angry at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because of their position, and etc. They are the definition of the 7 deadly sins. Of course, I can't prove all of that, but it just makes sense, right? That they don't want to do the work to get to where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are. They're lazy, they're envious, they're lustful, and lustful can mean like ambitious, like they are lustful for the position, the money that comes with it, etc. So, yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny that 2 stories in a row both start out with officials being snitches. A king's anger. Much like Daniel from last time, Nebuchadnezzar was not happy when these officials told him. And so, furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, so these men were brought before the king. This is Daniel 13 through 18. And Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, basically saying, "We don't need to defend ourselves to you. King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego basically telling Nebuchadnezzar, "Psh, who do you think you are? You think you can just command us to abandon the one true Almighty God just because you say so? I don't know. We don't need to defend what we do. We do not need to defend our faith to you. You could throw us in a blazing furnace. We don't care, because our God will save us. He will deliver us from this furnace and from you." But then they go a step further and they say, even if he doesn't, we want you to know that we won't serve your gods or worship your idol regardless. We have faith and trust and belief in the one true God, the God of Abraham, the God of Adam and Eve, the creator of everything. You and your gods are nothing before him. This is a little bit of a longer way to say what they said, but that's basically what they said. They basically said, "You are nothing. We don't need to defend ourselves to you. You can't hurt us. Because even if we aren't delivered, it was just our time, and we will be taken up by the God, our God, and we will live in eternity." Excuse me. But of course, God does save them from the fire. God look I have this image in my head of God looking down, being like, what's this King Nebuchadnezzar doing to my people? What's he doing? And one of the angels be like, he's throwing them into a blazing furnace because they won't worship that golden idol thing. And God's like, no, he isn't. And then Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, and I'm going to pause there. He does throw them into a furnace. I want you to understand this furnace was 7 times hotter than usual. The guards that threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the furnace, they died without even going into the furnace. That was how hot it was. You couldn't get near it or you were going to get burned up. But then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't. And now we'll read verses 24 through 29. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there only 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire? And they replied, certainly, your majesty. He said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors, the same people who got them in this situation, crowded around them. And they saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. And then, much like Darius, Nebuchadnezzar says, praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. And therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. So much like Nebuchadnezzar, or much like Darius, Nebuchadnezzar basically converse on the spot almost. I don't know if he actually converted or if he was just, what's the word? He was just acknowledging the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which is our God. But either way, like King Darius, King Nebuchadnezzar basically says, if you diss these men's God, we gonna get you. We're gonna come for you. Because their God saved them from the fire, a fire so hot that the people outside of it were burned up and killed. And they walked around in the furnace like it was a nice spring day. Now it says Nebuchadnezzar calls the 4th man in there an angel. A lot of people say that him saying that the 4th looks like a son of the gods, people think that the 4th person in there was actually Jesus Christ himself. That Jesus Christ came down and saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I don't know. In this whole passage, it kind of contradicts, because first he says looks like a son of the gods, and then later he says that God sent his angel and rescued his servants. So it's like, at first he says son of the gods, and it makes you think, oh, then it was Jesus Christ. And then he just says angels, and then you're like, what? But it doesn't really matter who it was, who that 4th person was. Either way, they were sent by God to rescue Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And those three, like Daniel, were put and raised in stature over all of the region of Babylon. Big difference here is that the officials weren't thrown into the furnace, at least it doesn't say they were, because they didn't trick Nebuchadnezzar. This was all done on his own volition, his own words. So it's like, other than being snitches, the officials didn't do anything wrong. They were just being officials. So they weren't killed like the officials were in Daniel's case. So you see, God punishes those who deserve punishment, even if the punishment is hard to think about. Those officials deserved their punishment with Daniel because they went through this entire plan to trick Darius using his susceptibility to flattery just in order to because they knew Daniel wouldn't follow the decree. And they knew this would be the perfect time to get rid of him. And like here with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God's like, no. I don't think so. We're going to shut the mouths of these lions. We're going to lock them down. Daniel's going to be fine. And then, because Darius actually likes and liked Daniel, Daniel's going to be elevated by Darius, and you, for your treachery, your traitorousness, your conniving, you and your families are going to be eaten by the lions. And like I said, that's hard because it does say they're children too, but again, we don't know. They use children a lot, and it doesn't always the original Hebrew doesn't actually mean like, little, like toddler, so they could have been young teenagers, like maybe 14, 15, something like that. We don't know. They hardly ever say how old children are. They always just say children when they are talking about like their parents. So, but anyway, that's getting into the weeds there. Anyway, God saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. God saved Daniel. God saves us every day. And I forgot to look up a story, but I'm not going to worry too much because I gave you two last week. I gave you the one about the man who got a feeling to go a different way than he normally would, and he saved a young child that was wandering the streets. And then I told you about how my mom couldn't have children, how the doctor said that she can't have children. Want something she had always wanted, but here I am. God saved her from not becoming a mother. God gave her a child. So next week I will find an actual other story, but next week I haven't quite decided. I do know I am going to do David, but David's gonna be a little longer one because David gets saved by God a lot in his story. in his story. So David's gonna be a little long. I might see if I can't find some other shorter, more condensed stories, because I can't remember them all off the top of my head. But again, I'm sorry about yesterday. Like I said, I had zero energy. I was just out of it. I don't know if I had a little bug or if it was just one of those days, but I do apologize. Um, and this one was a little different. It was more me reading the verses and then yapping about them. So hopefully you learned something. The biggest thing with all of these to learn and to take in is the fact that God will save. Whether it's from the fire, whether it's from lions, whether it's from the darkness of sin, God will save us. Remember, my friends, always that I love you, God loves you, and please remember to love yourselves and those around you. Till next time, my friends, bye.